Welcome, everybody. Every single Wednesday night, I bring you the price report and I scour the interwebs. I scour YouTube and I'm looking for the best traders, interesting people. They don't have to be traders. They could be miners, someone that has just dedicated themselves to cryptocurrency and trading. And this person, I watch this person on and off. I don't get to watch a lot of YouTube, but I do see who has that magic sauce. And I watch this man a lot. His name is Andy at Bitcoinsensus. And so I wanted to have Andy on. Andy, thank you so much for coming on today. First thing I always ask, how you doing? How you feeling? And, any juicy trades you're looking at?
Hello, Crypto Lifer. Yeah, I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much for letting me go on your channel. And yeah, great to basically see what's going on with the markets. I also jump on your live streams to say hello and take a look at your analysis and absolutely phenomenal work. So all good and excited to see, what is coming next for Bitcoin. And yes, I am actually in a trade setup at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, I just put out a long, we just long Bitcoin, right? I was basically looking at a 1 minute was in a flag, and I knew there was some resistance. We set up a long, and then the 1 minute went into a rising wedge, and they mainly break down, but if they don't, they go up, and we got a parabolic pop with the short squeeze. So we ended up getting a nice long trade today on the live. It was awesome. So
Nice.
how did you get into trading? Like me, I was researching fiat currency. And I started buying a gold bar. Like I bought a gold bar. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I knew they were going to print money to zero. So I got into trading because I knew that they were going to print money to zero in 2009, 2010. All right. I was like, okay. Peter Schiff told me, but and then, I started trading gold and silver, and that's kind of my story. But how did you get in? Like, what was your bite? Like, did you want to change your life? I'm always so curious how people got into trading.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started in 2017. It was basically one of those classic pop-ups that you have on Facebook and YouTube, basically, because I was interested basically in stocks. Suddenly I had a bit of interested in stocks because obviously you see, Amazon, Facebook, and suddenly you see information about stocks. And I thought, I actually like this. I want to buy stocks. I want to learn trading, what all this world is about. So started in 2017. And obviously the learning curve was very, very hard, but I was obsessed. The good thing about this, getting into this space, is being obsessed. If you're obsessed, you're going to get good at it. So basically buying a bunch of books, buying, different courses online. I didn't know anybody from the space, who was good, who was bad. So just getting a lot of information in 1 or 2 years. And then in 2018 is when I transitioned into cryptocurrency, because I focused on the S&P 500 stock market in 2017. And then did the transition in 2018 and started buying books about Bitcoin, crypto in general, and understanding the market cycle. And basically we were in that bear market in 2018 and 2019 and started accumulating, continuing with trading. My trading wasn't that good at that point because it was only 1 to 2 years where I was just learning still and, making a lot of mistakes, burning accounts, right? Just as you do as the beginning. And then obviously in 2020, just after the C19 crash, when we had the Black Swan event, accumulating more. I was getting good in trading. And then obviously in between 2020 and 2021, that's when it, portfolio exploded, making really nice gains. My trading was doing really good, and then started off with YouTube as well at the end of 2020. So everything fell into place really nicely in 2020 after those 3 years basically of starting into this industry.
Pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then do you trade stocks too, or you mainly focus only on cryptocurrency? Like me, I don't really, I traded stock for 8 years. And people ask me, why don't you get into this? Why don't you buy this at the bottom? And I find that I just like my focus in the niche, like if you trade Forex every day, there's a set of things you want to look at for Forex. If you it becomes nichey, right? The more of an expert you become at everything, the more, you can highly focus on certain areas, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I focused on the S&P the first 2 years, and then I transitioned into trading mainly Bitcoin in 2018. I do take a look at some altcoins, but 90% of my trading is based on Bitcoin. So I like to do technical analysis on the stock market, S&P 500, the DXY, and some other markets, but I don't basically trade them anymore. I focus my trading in Bitcoin because I scalp, I day trade, and if I can turn a day trade into a swing trade, I'll turn it into a swing trade as well. So 90% of trading is Bitcoin basically.
Yeah, me, I found I'm just, I have 2 kids. I did leverage trading and scalp trading for years. I still scalp trade, but just for my lifestyle, I'm a swing trader, 1 hour, 4 hour time frames. But again, every once in a while, it doesn't like last night, I caught a juicy scalp on Rune, and I'm sitting there short and ruined, you know what I mean? And I made like what, 20% in an hour, you know. Do you use
Nice.
leverage? I was against leverage for years. I was, because I didn't really use it. I got lucky
Yeah.
or prepared, whatever it was. My first few investments, like I was able to make $2,000 into 10 grand on like a 40-day swing trade. One of my first trades in my life was a Great Panther Limited. It was a silver stock. And they're like, we're going to acquire another mining. I like trading gold and silver stocks. That's what I was big into. And I got into the Toronto Stock Exchange, opened up an account up there. And I thought it was cool because no one else is up there. So I would tell all my friends, like, I'm trading the Toronto Stock Exchange. And it just made me feel, I felt like I was doing something interesting. But I also had access to a lot of, like I got into Canopy Growth Corp early. I took that 10 grand out of the silver stock and I eventually put 6 grand into Canopy Growth Corp. But I got in at $1.78 Canadian and it would go to like $30 American. So like,
wow,
that would change. And then I found Bitcoin around $300. I didn't pile in yet, but I started researching it. So like I amassed, like, I'm basically well over 100 grand before I even really knew how to trade. Like I didn't know technical analysis, but I had already made some money, you know? So then when I see people leveraging, I'm looking at them, I'm like, why would I leverage trade? I already made 100 grand. You know what I mean? So it was hard for me to get into leverage trading because I said, why would I have to do, I didn't have to do this risk to get here. Why would I be that risky, you know? So I was under the impression that, but now I see other people, if they can use it right and do it properly. So long question, but do you leverage? Because I've never seen you. I don't want you all the time. I've probably only seen like an hour of you in the last year. I don't get to watch a lot of YouTube, but I've gotten who you are in your essence, you know?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been leverage trading now for the last few years, but obviously, it can be very dangerous, and it can be, very, very profitable if you know how to use it properly. And basically, what I talk with my YouTube community and my community as well is the risk management, right? You need to have a plan, a really good plan, and have an invalidation point. I do see a lot of swing traders out there, other YouTubers as well, that kind of get into these very toxic swing trades where they are actually adding to the position as they're in a loss. And I'm kind of against of this way of trading because I think it's super important to have those invalidation points and know when to get stopped out and lose a small amount of money. So I do plan very well my trades. I've got some really nice setups, and basically I use leverage because I know how to use it now. But obviously, back in the day, I was using leverage back in 2018, 2019, and I did get burnt a few times because it was basically I've had very poor risk management. But now the risk management is kind of the best tool that I got at the moment. So nevertheless, if the price goes up or down, I've got a protection, which is basically that stop loss. So yeah, very, very good with the risk management at the moment.
What will be the highest leverage that you use, like in general? Like I know, I think I'm 20x is like my average leverage where I sit. Where do you like to stand? Where are you at?
It depends. If I'm doing scalping, so they're like small little moves inside of a small little range, like Bitcoin has been inside of this range now for the last 5 days. Basically, I like to use in between 50x or maybe 70x leverage. But like I say to my community as well, the leverage really doesn't matter. You can use 20x or 50 or 70x as long as your invalidation point is not losing more than 3% of your entire account, right? Okay. So if you lose 10% on one trade of your entire account, that's a bit too much. So yeah, it's too much. You're going a bit too far there. So I go in between 1 and 3% maximum. I say 3% is maximum. So whether you use 70x or 50x, if you do have a stop loss, that stop loss cannot be more than 3% of your trading capital. So you can use 50x, 70x, you can use what you want as long as you know that if you get stopped out, you're not losing more than 3%.
Yeah. Funny, because I didn't trade leverage. Like I did a little bit, but now I started trading leverage in March, let's just say, right?
Yeah.
So now, I'll look at it and I'll drag to 400 at 20x, or I'll drag back to 200 and then go to 40x. It's the same trade, right? The risk is exactly the same. It just, and then you go from there. So was there anyone in your family that was into finance? Like for me, my dad bought a house in like kind of a vacation area. My dad was, my parents were middle class, but I saw people with way more money than me. And that kind of was what got me. Did you see something like that growing up? Was there a reason you wanted to grab the brass ring, so to speak? Like, how come you're not at the regular job? And why did you go for this why did you learn a new trade, most people don't do that, right? They don't venture into a new thing. And then you got a YouTube channel going on. Like you went like me, man. You're like me and you were brothers.
Exactly.
You went all the way, man, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, my grandfather, you know, he was heavily into stocks, you know, a long time ago, but he was actually an investor. Like, he wasn't a trader, but he was an investor. He had shares and stocks on different companies all around the world. So maybe that's kind of dragged into into me to be an actual investor and trader. But yeah, like you said, you know, I did I was, you know, one of the reasons why I got into this was I had my 9 to 5 job. Basically, I was a welder back in the
Oh,
day.
wow. Nice.
Yeah, doing a metal work for yachts, and it was a very dirty job, you know, and you had to spend a lot of hours to just get a average wage, right? So, and then I have my colleagues, you know, I see them, they're 50, 60 years old, and they're waiting for their retirement. They haven't basically made any wealth based on this job, and that was kind of, you know, I went to bed one night and said, look, you know, I need to do something that actually is going to be good for me, that I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to build up wealth. And this was the way, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I never wanted a boss. Like, every time someone said I had to be somewhere, every time I woke up, it was a beautiful day outside. And
Yeah.
like, you know, like 2 of my good friends, they sold the company for 225 mil. And like, they take Thursday off. They were the CEO and the president of their company. They take Thursday off, like, oh, we're going fishing the Montauk. And I'd be like, I can't take the day off. I can't just leave work right now, you know? And I just envisioned and dreamed of being my own boss, man, and being,
Yeah.
you know, saying, hey, I want to work 10 hours today. I want to work 15 hours, or tomorrow I want to work in the morning, but then I want to spend time with my friend in golf. And then I want to come, you know, I want my time. Like, I hate it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you sat at work and it's like, I didn't do anything. You just had me sitting in there just to be there. You know what I mean? It was just such a waste of my life. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that there was, that the internet created this revolution and that we can trade. Now, I see some things in the charts, but I kind of want to see. I'm not going to say a word. I like to see what you see, and I haven't watched you in a week or two, so I don't know exactly what's brewing with you. I don't know if you
Yeah.
want to share a chart. I think I got the sharing mechanism on there. I don't know if you want to share a
Absolutely.
chart. Show me a little bit about the DXY. There's fear right now for Bitcoin, right? You know, now
Yeah.
you got the 17K people again. You got the 10K people in again. Are we going lower?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, what levels would you buy spot? Do you accumulate spot like me? Are you a big Bitcoin holder, or are you just a trader? Kind of bring us
Yeah.
into your world a little bit. Show us what's going down in the Andy's world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan in accumulating Bitcoin, obviously, for the long term. You know, I think
Excellent.
Bitcoin obviously is going to be, you know, is going to be worth much more than it's worth today, no doubt, in the future. So I'm a big fan of actually accumulating Bitcoin, some Ethereum as well, and I've got some altcoins, of course, that I do think that, you know, can be an interesting piece
Let
in
me
there.
guess, you're an H bar guy. No, I'm just joking. I'm just,
I
I'm just
actually
fucking
haven't
joking.
got any H bar,
Yeah.
but you know, I like the project. I've been doing a little bit of research on the project, but yeah, I've got some Chainlink. I like Chainlink. I like the Oracle and the DeFi section. So, yeah, but basically Ethereum and Bitcoin, I think, you know, they're the ones that you need that they can maintain their value. They probably won't do obviously a 50x, but overall they will gain it in value in the near future.
If you had to choose one, I don't know, if you had to choose one, it's like a polarizing question, but I give you $5,000. You have to buy one. Is it ETH or Bitcoin?
It would be Bitcoin. Yeah, it would be
Right.
Bitcoin.
My man,
Yeah,
my man, my man.
yeah. It would be Bitcoin.
Me
Yeah,
too, me too.
but I see
Some people
Ethereum
look
very
back the other
powerful.
way, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I see Ethereum very powerful though, you know, so much, you know, decentralized network where you can build all different smart contracts on top. I think it's just so powerful for a decentralization world, right? So I think it's just obviously very powerful, and I think it will continue to be so. So yeah, I mean, hopping into the DXY,
Yeah,
there
get you
is
off topic here because but yeah, let's see what's going on with the DXY here. Very similar
I
to
mean,
what we're looking at that rejection
yeah.
point.
Keeping it super simple, right? Basic technical analysis, understanding the market structure that we have been in since October of 2022. Obviously, we've got a really nice downtrend. This is when Bitcoin bottomed in November, when we started to move down, when we had the FTX crash. So no doubt DXY has a massive negative correlation, as you know. If DXY, you know, pumps, Bitcoin is likely to crash. If DXY drops, then it's good for Bitcoin. So right now in this downtrend, just to keep it really simple for the viewers to understand, we are trending to the downside. The market structure is, you know, creating those lower highs and lower lows. And basically here we are at a crucial pivot level where, you know, we are getting rejected from the point of control, which is the highest volume node where we have from the last year. And basically following the downtrend now, if this level is not rejected in the coming days. So far, we had a failed move up here nicely. We just got a drop here as we're doing the interview. So that is a good sign here for the DXY to get rejected maybe in the next coming weeks. However, I mean, if the DXY does manage to get above the 104 level, which is this last lower high, it would be breaking the downtrend structure. And obviously that would mean that we could see the DXY getting into a bullish trend for the next coming months. And obviously that would be devastating for Bitcoin because there is a massive negative correlation. And if we see the DXY pumping in the next coming months, well, obviously we could be calling for Bitcoin, you know, down to 20K, 18K, you know, and potentially even lower. But there is a sign here that we could get rejected. Overall, it is resistance, right? It is resistance. We know there's a lot of fake outs on the market. We kind of tried to
to fake us out there. They did, man. They got me because I brought that trend line a little lower and I was like, man, they kind of got us. But then I was like, you know, bear trap, you know, I'm like, I gotta be a bull trap. I mean, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like kind of there, you know, where it's just about to break out. It's getting back beneath the lower high trend line. So it's still continuing
stuff
to be
it back in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. As long as we below this peak, you know, it's all good. All of this can be fake out. And, you know, we could start scaling back down again here.
Amen. Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, the point of control, basically, where we have the highest volume node is right over there at this range. So I'm hoping that is it.
And see how it could almost make a right shoulder too. See that? Like it almost has half of it inverted, you know. I'm like, if that, you know, I don't want that to make a shoulder there. Yeah, exactly. It's like exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, you know, it could be blue skies for Bitcoin if we start rejecting here aggressively. Obviously, taking out the lower time frame, you know, we have been in a very aggressive uptrend here for the last, you know, several weeks since mid-July. So no doubt it's a very powerful uptrend.
If you think about it, Bitcoin's actually been doing pretty good considering that uptrend. Like they are correlated, but every once in a while, like remember, so sad because I'm watching the DXY. Like you pointed out, I was on the 2-week chart. And that's when we topped. When we topped, Bitcoin was at 19,000. So I bought a whole Bitcoin in front of everyone on my live stream because I was like, and then they both tanked. Then they both dumped together on the SPF weekend. Like it was like the dollar dumped and Bitcoin. And I was like, man, like, you know, I still love the buy. You know what I mean? I still like, you know, because my thing was I always watched tons of YouTubers, but I never saw them like buy the Bitcoin. So I was like, you know what? I want to do the thing that I never saw any. I was like, I'm going to buy the Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a whole one in front of everyone. And, you know, I'm sitting there with the 20 grand. I'm like, one day should I do it? One day I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I'll either be a laughing stock, and everyone's like, look at that idiot. He bought all that Bitcoin at the wrong time, you know? But now I'm still up 7 grand, you know what I mean? So who's laughing now? But, you know, we'll go from there. And I kicked inflation in the teeth, you know? So, so now you got 2 charts going on. Explain what you got going on now.
It's basically in the orange here. We do have the Bitcoin price just to see, so you can see the actual negative correlation where the, you know, if you know, the bear market of 2022 is basically when the DXY was in this huge, massive rally. And you can see in the orange here, Bitcoin, you know, finding that massive drop. So basically when the DXY confirmed its peak right there and started collapsing, it's when the Bitcoin price bottomed right there at the $15.5, $16,000 range. So as it was moving down here, we can see that huge major rally on Bitcoin here in the orange. And it's, you know, pretty curious to see it, that how, you know, when the DXY was peaking out here, if you can see here with the candlesticks here behind the orange line, it was when Bitcoin price was bottoming out. So DXY peaking, dropping, Bitcoin bottoming out and pumping. And the same here, right over here in April, you can see, you know, the DXY finding a bottom in a rally. That is when the Bitcoin price topped and then, you know, dumped back down. So it's really, there's a massive correlation here. We can see here you know, the thing about Bitcoin here with this latest drop, it was holding very nicely, like you said, right? The DXY was pumping and we were still kind of just a small little corrective move. But then we got the effect of that massive pump of the DXY just, you know, the last few days where we had this major drop of almost $5,000, right? So now the question is, will the DXY find that resistance as we were talking about at this zone and manage to roll down? It's definitely a high possibility. So, and there's a lot of people bearish right now. Bitcoin, this is it. Bitcoin's doomed. You know, we're going down to 22K, 20K, 19K, and we're even starting to hear those 12K macro bears, right? But got to be honest, there is a chance here that if the DXY does drop, you know, it will find a bottom soon if this were to be the case to get that next rally. potentially to create a new yearly high. It's just especially I would say that this low is going to be tested if we start rolling down here the next coming days. My target for the DXY would be a test of the lows, and that's a pretty nice significant move down. And I think obviously Bitcoin can manage to create a new yearly high if that were to be the case.
What's interesting too is trading stocks for 15 years now and the markets. I love the October, November, like that tends to be, and this is setting up for an October, we'd get chop in September while we try to figure it out.
Yeah.
The DXY would finally confirm the drop like mid-September, right? And then as we got into October, we would, I'm seeing a hidden bullish on the daily too, a hidden bullish divergence on the daily, which I'm really good at finding bullish. I'm telling you, man, I'm like, I don't like to say I'm good at anything in trading because it's like, it's like, I'm as best as I can be every day, but I'm really good at hidden bullish divergence. Like, and I use it. I love when you find something that works because you've traded it so many times that like I remember my mentor, I'm sitting with him one day and he goes, "Oh, hidden bullish." He goes, "I traded blind." And I'm like, "Blind?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just throw 10 grand, no stop loss." And I was like, I'm looking at him like, maybe not no stop loss, but he's like, "I'll trade it blind," basically. And when he said that, I thought he was insane. 7 years later, now I know exactly. I'm like, dude, sometimes I do trade hidden bullish blind. Like, because it's this, to me, I find it the strongest indication of a reversal. I love my low Stokes with a hidden bull. So there's we didn't make a lower low. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's why I love when I did watch you and when I have watched you, you trade in prerequisite ideas. Like you say, like, you're not like, you've already made it determined. You're like, if this isn't above this, then we do this. If this goes lower, then we it's like, and that it seems simple, but that takes like 8 years, 5 to 7. You did it in 4, but it takes time, man, because the brain wants to control the situation. And you have to tell the brain, no, you're not in control. This is in control. I'm just giving you the data, and then I have to listen, and I think that's kind of where people struggle with trading the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you there. Yeah.
So
recognizing, so you need to be bearish as you're hitting, you're pumping for a while and hitting resistance. You need to be bullish when you're hitting, you're bearish and you're hitting some support level.
So
right?
would you have guts right now to build a swing long with like a stop loss below this low, or is there more confirmation that you need before you would start to begin to build a long here? I guarantee you probably bought spot. I'm just thinking, are you building one of your like 10x or 20x leverage swing trades, maybe,
basically, hang on a second, let me just get this out of the way. Basically, because I'm a day trader, I'm more of a day trader, and I too take a look at major levels on the chart. And what I like to analyze is basically, hang on a second, let me just change this here from percentage. There we go. And basically, what inside of these ranges, I very much know that what happens is you claim the highs and you claim the lows several times to then reverse, right? So you got a nice range here where you're at the highs and then come to the lows, come to the highs, come to the lows. So I'm trying, I'm in a long position exactly from this level over here, which is $25,600. It's a bit of a day trade long. It's not a swing long position. However, I've got it open. I've got some position open, which I might add because I did take some profits here at $26,000.
Yeah, first resistance, smart move.
Yeah, it was facing that resistance also, which is the point of control.
It could have lost the whole trade there, so why not take the top? Yeah, good move.
Yeah. So it's getting all, the point of control was getting that heavy consolidation. I'm thinking, it might reverse pretty aggressively from here, so I'm taking profits from my long. But I'm leaving 50% open or 40% just in case we do get that push up. And so
which
far,
we did. Nice turn.
Exactly. So we're leaving the zone at the moment, which is good news. So until we find a rejection point, I like to take a look at pivot points here, as you can see, as these lower highs. If we do get that reaction at that zone, then I would probably take some profits and maybe look to re-enter a short. But yeah, like you said, usually when you have this massive crash, it most of the times when you do take a look at, major crashes with high volume, you create a dead cat bounce. And at some point you want to come down close to the low, right? So for that swing trade long, I would like to come close to this low. And even better, if we do kind of claim it, if we do claim the low and then get above it, basically creating that failed breakout and recognizing the failed breakout, just like here, but on the higher time frame, this was a failed breakout from the low of the zone, then I would be interested in getting into that long swing long position. If this day trade that I'm in right now is going to be that swing long, then I'll have to, kind of slowly add
just
to
keep
the position.
Yeah.
adding and being defensive. Obviously, stop loss will go with my entry point. We just kind of go to make a little bit more gains on the movement up. But I think, it's likely that because the corrective waves are usually 3 waves, that the possibility here of the dead cat bounce has just been an A wave, a B wave, and then we're in the kind of the C wave, and then obviously at the end we'll come back down in my personal opinion. Yeah.
Cool, man. It's funny. I always get said, when I started trading, I was with a group of Elliott Wave traders, and I was more like a fib, and they kept calling all these ridiculous things, and a lot of them didn't play out. And so I decided to never use Elliott Wave again. But so I don't touch it. I'm not. But every once in a while, I'll see wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. I've just seen it too. Every time I've deep dived with an Elliott Wave trader and like really sat with them for hours, there's just too much ambiguousness with them. They're just too like, well, then it could be, and then it's a maybe. And I'm just like, and I could never get the full. I've always stayed I didn't want to bring it up. I just thought we could laugh about it more.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very complex, there's so many different
I probably don't know everything, so it doesn't, that's why I can't see it. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, it is complex. There are all these different type of corrections, A, B, C, D, E, and there's all, there can be 5 waves, then there can be a flat ABC correction, and there's just all different multiple scenarios, and it's very confusing a lot of the times.
My brain breaks it down, and it says, my brain goes, we don't have to project into the future, because like the 5 minute will tell us what. It's like my brain switched. One day my brain looked at what everyone was doing, and it said, Sam, just hammer away the 1 hour to the 4 hour every 5 hours, and you're never going to have to use Elliott Wave, because you're going to know, like, you know what I'm saying? If I left the charts away for a week straight, then Elliott, because then I could come back and see but because I know I'm going to be here every day, 5 hours, it's like I see people on my channel, like, we're going up, we're going down. I'm like, well, we can't go there. Like, we can't go to 30K till we get above 27,000, so everyone makes these outlandish projections. And I'm always like, just chart every 5 hours and you'll know where it's going to go, because eventually the TA will give you the probability, but I didn't realize, after years of charting, one day it hit me. I said, oh my God, Sam, I said, you can become one of the most accurate Bitcoin traders in the world if you just do it every 5 hours, because it'll be very rare that you miss a beat, as long as you do exactly what the TA tells you to do. You know what I mean? But that took, that was like a realization, like deep in my brain. It's like weird things happen in TA, right? You almost can't convey them to someone else. Like, travel so deep in your brain, you're like, well, how did I even get to this place? But
I'm a very basic trader. At the end of the day, there's so many different indicators and tools that you can use, and I know Elliott Wave is very complex, and you can get, if you do too much analysis, you're just going to paralyze and just don't know what to do, right? I'm just like, I'm like very basic, guys, and claim the liquidity beneath this low, and if this long is taken, I'm looking for these highs over here to be taken, which would be a take profit zone. If we do start facing a high volume level of resistance, then I would take some profits here, but overall my target is this one. And if it continues breaking through without rejecting, well, then I'll maintain a bit of the long position, and no shorts will be taken till we actually reject from a clear pivot high, where we do get a consolidation. So keeping it like really simple at the end of the day. I've been trying, all different types of, Bollinger Bands, moving averages, GAN fan, and, all so many different things to use. But I kind of, when I just take it out of the chart and go quite basic, support, resistance, high volume nodes on the volume profile, and, recognize where there's liquidity, and then, it makes it much easier.
Yeah. Amazing. So, so again, you're not making any long-term claims, but your TA is somewhat with mine. As long as we get rejected by that top trend in the DXY, there's a chance we are making that higher low on like the daily or the 3-day chart for Bitcoin. And, and we could get a move back out. Only time will tell, right?
Yeah.
One step at a time. Honestly, I could tell, right? Once you put years into trading, it only takes like a minute or two to watch an analyst to see, like, and I was like, the second I saw you, I was like, oh man, I like this guy. I love,
cheers for that.
It also has something to do with character a little bit. Like, if I was raised right by my parents, like, you don't say something if you don't know something. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That's how I was raised. Like, and I don't ever want my word to be construed as, as not trustworthy, right? Or even just the guy that says whatever. So like when I say something, I want to be like, hey, this is the probability, but I don't know where it's going to go. And so many YouTubers don't want to say, I don't know. They want to know that they know it all. But like, by releasing yourself, and you'll gain so much respect from people by just being like, hey, I'm here
Yeah,
like you every day, attempting to
exactly.
figure out where the market's going. You know, I
Yeah,
don't have the answers, but I have the experience, right? Uh,
exactly.
now 4 years, you've been basically doing this every day, right? Like you've given up social events. I'm sure there's birthday parties, there's Friday nights. You've
Yes.
dedicated a lot of your life for this.
Yeah.
You know, where do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you want to become a billionaire? Like, do you have ideas of that, or just, you know, where do you want to go with the success you're getting with trading?
Well, I mean, this, is a never ending game, basically. So, time is, just is there. I love it. This is my passion. I'm successful at it. I'm building up more capital. I'm in crypto. It's YouTube's going great. It's just, there's a really no limit, right? So it's like, whatever comes, and of course the more wealth you can build, even better. And obviously if I can share it with family and friends, even better. But there's basically no limit. I would like to see myself in, obviously, yeah, billionaire. Well, if it comes to be a billionaire, well, obviously bring it on. Why not? Obviously that I do build up consistently every time. Every year is better and better. So maybe that is the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, this has been amazing, man. I really appreciate your time in the charts.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you very
I
much.
also
Yeah,
like to use the VRVP. I didn't use it for 5 years, and I
yeah.
think I added it about, I'll say, 2.5 to 3 years ago. And I
Yeah.
mean, how many times have you just said, had I just used the VRVP? Has that ever happened to you too? If you're like, I could have taken
Yeah.
the indicator
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and just when we got above the point of control, I longed, and if I got below the point of control, I shorted, and then I sold at the value area highs and lows, like just kind of like. You
Yeah.
know what someone pointed out to me, which really helped me when I first got that indicator? He goes, picture price like a ball. They said, twist your head like this, you know what I mean? And picture
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
price like a ball, and be like, once the ball falls, it's going to fall down the hill, and just let the ball fall down the hill.
Mm.
Don't overthink it. Just
Mm.
kind of, oh yeah. So tell us all the indicators that you use. Just kind of break down what, if I was your student one day, or if I was going to say, hey, Andy, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What would
Well,
you tell me to slap on my chart? You know?
just going through, I like to use Fibonacci,
Mm-hmm.
such as Fibonacci retracement, Fibonacci extension, just to see how the impulsive can, how far can it reach. For example, but basically I'll use Fibonacci. I like to use harmonics sometimes, harmonic patterns. I'm not sure if you're familiar with harmonic
Yeah, I've
patterns.
seen that. It's like they always make a butterfly, and there's these two
Yeah,
lines, and
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't use it too much. It's not like it must be like 10% of my trading potentially. I know the strategies and I know how to spot them and how to get them
You can
into
kind of draw a
them.
box, move another box, and you can kind of see where the box goes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Also, and obviously volume profile, fixed volume profile as well, to take a look at value area high and value area low levels from ranges. Just like this range, I think for me, this was a really nice support range where we were getting from this entire trading area that we had in between March and June. So this value area high, had to hold right there. It was holding. Managed to get a couple of little bounces, managed to make a little bit of, profits of your day trades until it actually, was just losing the range. So yeah, volume profile, fixed volume profile, harmonic patterns, Fibonacci retracements, daily levels, weekly levels, monthly levels, which is basically the monthly close and open. So if I go with a monthly level, basically, I would go with close and open right over there. So there's a nice monthly close and open at that range here in purple. Weekly levels also, and daily levels, I like them. They're very much respected on the chart many times, and I can add it with confluence, with Fibonacci, with point of control levels with the volume profile. So just a little bit
Give us a gem. Someone showed me recently. They said you right click the monthly, and there was a way where, like, whatever time. Well, actually, I guess it stays on there. I guess there was something where, like, even if I went to the 1 minute chart,
yeah.
it would show like key levels of the monthly or something. No, just the same line. Maybe we'll edit that out, because I was like, I remember the other day I was watching a YouTuber and he was like, how to keep this level throughout every time frame. But I'm like, oh, it already does that anyway. So I'm like in my mind, I'm like, that happens all the time. You just put the line there and it's gonna stay there. That's interesting though. So yeah, so you use now no momentum indicators. Like I'm a like the stochastics RSI to me are like
Yeah.
deadly. Like I love the
Yeah.
stochastics RSI and the RSI. I think I've seen you use
Yeah.
the RSI for sure, right? And divergences.
I have used RSI in the past a little bit, but like for higher time frames, for exhaustion moments. But basically for my day trading, it's not a tool that I can use because it's a lagging indicator basically. But on the higher time frames, it can show you the levels of, you know, basically of exhaustion or such as the high, you know, going in an uptrend or a downtrend. But yeah, no moving averages, MACD, or, you know, Bollinger Bands, or, you know, basically I don't use any of them for my trading.
Excellent. Yeah, like I was able to call the short here. It was really, this short to me was simple. Like we couldn't get above 29.5. So I said to everyone, like, don't open along until we get above, if we can't. And then we went to 29.250. And I said I would remain short because now we can't get above 29.250. I said if we can't get above 29.250, I said I wouldn't open the, and then we just, so all you had to do was like respect those two levels and you would have rolled the short down. It was just like, it's so fun. And then there was two bear flags, one on the 15 and another one a day later that I pointed out when I went to bed. And I said I would short the bear flag. And it's so funny when I look back, I'm like, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was years ago. I just had to listen and pay attention. And yeah, so wow, man, I like it. I can see where you want to build your long. I kind of got an idea of what you're doing. Do you ever get into vector candles? I get them, but I haven't like it. I know how much it's going to take for me to bring them in. So I don't like, I don't dabble in them yet.
Exactly. I mean, I've heard about them. I'm always open to see different, different strategies and indicators and stuff like that. I have heard about them, done a bit of research, but overall, for my type of trading, it's I don't need it, kind of thing, right? So if I don't need it, I won't use it.
Yeah.
But CVD, I like CVD to take a look at CVD divergence. That's another indicator tool that I use just to see, where there's a lot of market orders that are getting absorbed by larger limit orders, to see the exhaustion as well. So that does help, obviously, to take a decision as well.
Yeah, I got lucky. Like Bookmap reached out to me, like a year or two ago, and they were like, "Hey, we like your style. We seen you." And I started using Bookmap, and it's changed my life. Like, you know what I mean? It really like, and I bring it in with what I'm doing, and it's amazing. I can see the liquidity levels, and I tell you what, man, like 9 out of 10 times, if we see a huge order above us, I'd be like, I wouldn't short that. I mean, the guy's gonna get his order filled, and you're in between it. So, and you get the squeeze. So it's watching a short squeeze like the funnest thing we do on my live stream, man. It's happens all the time. I'm amazed. And do you have any kids? Do you have like which like I have 2 kids. I don't know what you're doing with your life, and you don't have to answer too. Maybe I'm asking too many personal questions, but the community has a lot of people that are raising children or doing their thing, or just like where you're at in life. Where you live in Spain? You're hanging out, like
living in Spain. I've got a girlfriend, and
nice.
I'm 33 years old, so I haven't got kids yet, but it's something that could happen in the next couple of years. So it's probably the idea to get some kids out already, because time is flying, and I'm obviously too concentrated with trading now, with YouTube, with the community, and time flies when you enjoy what you're doing. They're just not only the days, but the weeks go past so fast, and I think it's time. Hey, maybe it's time to start thinking of raising a family. So it's definitely on the cards there.
I had my first kid at 31. I have 2 daughters. They're the greatest thing in my life, man. Keep me aligned.
Absolutely.
Definitely help my trade, help everything, because you just you don't want to be successful in what you're doing for your kids and your family, man. But thank you so much for coming on my channel, man. I really appreciate it. I don't know if you want to stop the screen share real quick just so we can get a last goodbye. But
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I just I just really appreciate you, man. I feel like a really good aura, a really good sense of character from you right off the bat. When I first started watching you, you're laid back in the pumps, laid back in the dumps. That really helps. People need that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're getting emotional. They want to see the information given to them in a nice, calm manner, especially when the volatility is at a high point.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So stay humble.
Amen. I like that. Humble pod, man. Eating it up,
Yeah.
So last thing I want to say is, where can people find you? When do you live stream? Are you on Twitter and all that stuff? And just let people know where they can find you.
We got Twitter, we got YouTube. Basically, it's Andy Bitcoinsensus, or the Bitcoinsensus on its own on Twitter. Also, there's a website. We just share different information of the markets. But if you want to find me personally, it's Andy Bitcoinsensus. There, I post daily updates and live streams as well. So, as you know, yeah.
Now, one last thing, I've seen another woman Bitcoinsensus. Is it a company or something? Because one day I saw another YouTube channel, and it was a lady, right? And she was something Bitcoinsensus. And I was like, is that Andy? Is Andy connected to her? Is there something going on? Yeah. Is that
Exactly. Yeah. So Bitcoinsensus would be like the company of crypto education. And obviously we kind of hop on, try and, hop on different YouTubers, but she's separated her brand. She is Natoshi her name is right now. She was Natalie Bitcoinsensus, but she's kind of separated over the brand. But yeah, absolutely, if we can onboard different YouTubers, we will do so, keep it like a company brand.
Are you the entrepreneur? Is that you? Are you like the mind behind all that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do. It's a group of people that we managing the company. We've got a manager, obviously. We've got content creator, people managing the Discord. So yeah, it's basically
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Andy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, we'll get into another collaboration soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.